Recreation Council here because I don't want to misstep. I'm new to this role, even though I'm not new to the board. And it's also new to the fact that we're following very specific rules. Like I am reading what we're going to do in terms of protocol so everybody understands it for us as well as for the public. And I don't intend to memorize it ever because then I will.
It'll change.
I will, yeah, exactly. But it's good to do it by Robert's rules because it keeps us out of trouble.
Is that clock correct?
Yeah, it's 8:30.
It's 8:30?
But we can start.
You have to have someone.
Well, so for public hearings, see, that's actually that's a good question. It used to be that we could just move through the agenda.
Yeah.
Why don't we wait a few minutes? Because Cynthia's supposed to come.
Yeah, and then what would be that number? One?
Oh,
For public.
yeah. No, what I mean is, we have to, yeah.
Is Katie coming? Ron's coming? Yeah. I don't know about anyone else, but leaving downtown yesterday was, something happened on the interchange of 81 and 90. And so I didn't even get on the highway, but, yeah, I did, until I could get on the highway.
Well, they got that bridge work in Midler, and so it's reduced to 1 lane.
That wasn't,
Eastbound?
right before I was gonna get on 81, I could see flashing lights. So I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going there. We'll wait. It is pretty slippery up there. And this isn't for you. I'm cheering for it, so I will be very clear about that.
Get out on the slopes.
I haven't skied yet.
Yeah.
So
A couple of days. The next couple
I'm
of
gonna
days.
try skiing tomorrow and the weekend. Okay.
As that was coming in, it was like,
Actually, my daughter
as I was
skied
walking upstairs, I'm like,
for
it's quiet
for
in
New
here
Year's
today.
weekend. They went away for the
Everybody know
weekend.
we have a meeting?
And because the conditions were so bad, she put a nice little gouge in her ski. So her brother offered up one of his race skis, and she goes, "No, I know what I'm buying." Like, really? You can fix it. She didn't bend the edge. My kids were racers. And my husband's a racer. I
I have a flat lap. Because I grew up in Nebraska, so there's
Yeah, we're pretty much.
Well, I grew up in New York City.
Yeah.
I was an ice skater. I was a figure skater competitively, so I know how to stop.
That's
So I switched to ski. Falling on the ice.
Yeah. No, it's good.
It is.
Yeah, exactly.
Hurts more.
That makes it fun. Makes it.
The key to falling on the slopes is just let yourself not, if you try to stop yourself, that's when you get twisted up and twist knees and do all sorts of stuff. So you just let it, yeah. I mean, I'm not on really bad slopes, like kids and risk of
Started my daughter when she was 2, so she has no fear.
well, that's, we do, the kids were on
Lots of.
Half a dozen times. Perfectly happy to be cross country.
Yeah, exactly. What's going on? Where's the
well, my parents did
bigger.
too, but, so we
yeah,
didn't
it's
ski
fun.
because we were sitting in that was normal for them. They would go to first, but then it got too do it. So where do you take the kids here? Song or lab? Lab, we like, but we ski out of that. We have passes.
Okay, just move to
Okay.
New York border, and then another that's 50 minutes away, and the other that's on the pass, another that's.
I've definitely seen
Well,
driving by.
Hillsdale, I'm 10 minutes from Hillsdale.
Oh, really? Okay.
Where in Hillsdale?
Actually, so he's building a house. There's a big,
It's out, yeah, and
it's a pastor house.
Okay. Is he building it in town?
Building in town, so there's
On
like
the
a,
hill?
yeah, there's like
Oh,
a,
I
yeah,
know, yeah.
yeah.
Who's your friend?
His name's Ben Levy.
Okay.
He's living above the No Jame
Okay.
Brewer right now. His friend, Steve Bluestone, owns it.
oh no.
and she comes out from
Yeah,
We go there a lot.
yeah, that's a great place.
I've been watching
It's just like,
the reconstruction of that building. Yes, yeah, I like actually the theory.
I like playing.
Have you ever come and visit?
Oh, yeah. In fact, we're overdue for a visit.
We should exchange numbers. You can meet us someday.
Would love that.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because we've been wondering for a while, and then
so I,
some friends who own Kim Farm, which is right down the house, and sell. We were at dinner at their house, and they said,
Hey.
pass it out, because we all. Are we ready? Okay, I need glasses. Good morning. This is the Syracuse Landmark Preservation Board, January 4th, is being called to order. Present at this meeting, and I will start in that direction.
I'll start, yeah. Kate Auetter.
Nicole Fragnito.
Hillary Donahoe.
Jeff Romano.
Julia Marshall.
Kyle Gregory.
Our Trish.
Okay. First order of business is, pardon? Oh, well, because she said no one was excused,
No,
but Cynthia is not
Cynthia,
here.
yeah,
So
I'll have
she
to-
might be late.
Yeah.
I have asked that previously. First order of business is to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any modifications or discussions? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? Minutes? Abstain? Okay. I believe when you abstain for reason.
She wasn't here.
I wasn't
Okay.
present the last
Well,
Which
for
which
document,
actually then means, yeah, sorry,
abstained
Hillary
also.
and.
Right.
and George.
for documentation, we need to state that. Minutes are adopted. The board will now conduct the public hearing on today's agenda. The first applicant or applicant's representative will be invited to describe the proposed scope of work and to present any material or documentation regarding the proposal to the board. Next, persons wishing to speak in favor of the proposal will be given the opportunity to address the board. Then persons wishing to speak in opposition will be allowed to address the board. Finally, the applicant or representative will be given the opportunity to make closing comments to the board. Following each public hearing, the board may vote to approve with conditions, or deny the application just heard. The board may also decide to hold the decision until the next public hearing. If the hearing is closed, no additional information will be allowed into the record except for information that the board may request. That information will be available for public review with board staff. Kate, would you like to introduce?
The first application is CA 2401. It is a certificate of appropriateness, 208 Berkeley Drive. It is, 208 Berkeley Drive is in the Berkeley Park Preservation District. It is a colonial revival style residence, as you can see in the image. It was constructed in 1929. This is a window replacement project, replacing circa 1980 vinyl-clad windows. The role of the board here is to approve with conditions, deny or hold the application open pending submission of additional information.
Is it a certificate of appropriateness?
It is a C of A. Yep.
Would you like to please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Ron D'Antonio. I live at 208 Berkeley Drive, and I am just presenting what we're up to here. So we're replacing 23 windows in the house, 3 of which are originals, 20 of which are previously replaced vinyl windows. The vinyl windows were installed before we owned the house in 1991 and are in bad condition. The new windows will be Marvin Ultimate Double Hung and Marvin Ultimate Casement Assemblies. So the new windows are aluminum clad wood, full frame, custom fit to each opening. The exterior trim around the window openings and the shutters will remain. The design of the new double hung windows replicates the design of the 2 remaining original windows, original double hung windows on the south side of the house. The design is 6 panes over 1. I could show. Replicate that 6 panes over 1 on the double hung. The design of the new casement assembly windows replicates design of the 2 present casement assembly windows. So. Yep, and that one. So, let's see. That's all I have. If there's any questions, go ahead.
Any
Ask away.
comments?
Which ones? Oh, the casements? Well, those are casements, so 2 on the side go
Oh, I
like
thought they were
this.
replacement windows, right?
Those ones
The
are the
2 at the
original ones,
top,
correct?
or no?
The 2 at the top are
Yes.
original. They're gonna look identical.
So the 2 at the top are double hung, and the
Yes.
one at the bottom is a casement.
Yeah.
That was originally a
Yeah,
casement.
so what we tried to do is copy the original design on all the other windows, which had been changed, I think, to 6 over 6. So we're back to 6 over 1 on the double hungs.
So those casements are original? So you,
Only one of them is. This
One.
one.
okay. Well, my greater question is, what Howard was saying as well, is there a precedent that those were casement originally? Or are you returning, you're putting,
Don't know
You
for
don't know that?
sure. I
Okay.
mean, the opening would suggest that, but I'm not
Based
certain.
on the opening, I would think that those were originally casement.
yeah, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was just saying, be consistent throughout the house.
Right,
If you
exactly.
made those last, the top 2, like the rest of them.
Yeah, but the issue was that it isn't a casement.
So
That's-
then
that's-
you're doing 6 over 1 for the mutton pattern. But
With-
on the last cut sheet, 610 shows that it's it's highlighted as 9 over 9, unless I'm reading that wrong. Just want to make sure
Where
we're,
do you see 9 over?
on the last sheet. It's, yeah, it's underlined as 9 over 9. I don't know if that's just, it's differentiated. I don't know if that's just how it printed or if that's
Oh,
indicated.
I think that is taken from, I pulled that from the Marvin,
From the,
Marvin, the Marvin, just the Marvin manufacturer's information. So was just,
I
yeah.
guess I want to comment, I would like, right,
yeah,
right,
okay,
and the,
No
6 over 1.
design.
which is more
That wasn't,
appropriate,
yeah,
Okay, I'm just making sure that everything is consistent. Thank
Right.
you.
yeah, so we're back. Tried to stay consistent for all the double hungs, to make them all
6
6.
over 1 is more appropriate for the age of the house. So I would agree and commend you for going for the 6 over 1. And just note that they are simulated divided light. They are not going with, right, they're simulated both sides based on the information. With a spacer in between.
With the
Yep.
spacer.
Yeah,
They're not
I
a
would
true
think
driveway.
that this casement here is absolutely original based on
I
the
was going to say,
size.
if there's going to be, just to remind, because we are still getting, learning the ropes of the public
Right.
hearing,
We need to-
if you, when the board, we need to, well, obviously, there's not much public here, so we just need to make sure to close the public hearing and then start the board's deliberation before there's a motion.
Since you're not here and, okay. So I'm going to close the public hearing and then we can, if we have more questions, I just would like to make a comment based on the comments regarding the casements. I strongly believe that these are original casements based on the size of the mutton bars, because that's how one would depict the age of buildings is based on the size of the muttons, and they're quite narrow, so it would lead me to think that those were original casements. Any discussion from the board? Any questions?
I would just commend the owner for removing
Vinyl?
non-historic material from a historic home and installing new wood, aluminum clad windows. So,
Thank you.
thank
What-
you.
One question I have is what color are? White. Okay.
Stone white?
Stone, okay, because I just want for the record. I'll make a motion.
Did you close
I did close the hearing. That's why you were talking. You got to talk because I closed it.
Gotcha, okay, thank you. I would go ahead and make a motion to accept the project as submitted.
A second? Any second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone against or abstaining? No? Motion passed. Thank you very much. Good luck. We
Appreciate it.
Great
really
project.
commend you on great project. Get some of your neighbors to do that.
Yeah. Set the precedent.
Good questions.
Okay. Kate, do you want to introduce the next?
Yes, thank you. This is CA-24-02. It is a certificate of appropriateness for 940 Comstock Avenue, which is also known as Oakwood Cemetery. Oakwood Cemetery is one of a small number of historic landscapes that have been designated as local protected sites. The cemetery was designed by New York City landscape gardener Howard Daniels and was dedicated in 1859. This proposal calls for the demolition of a circa 1965 former superintendent's house that the Cemetery Association now uses as an office building. It is proposed to be replaced by a 3,300 square foot administrative building. And so,
Please introduce yourself.
Morning. My name is Jared McCormick. I'm a project architect with Daniel Manning Architects. This project, as stated, is proposing to create a new administrative office building for Oakwood Cemetery. The original house that's on site now that was the previous caretaker's building stemmed from the construction of 81, which closed the original building, which is down near the railroad tracks and the original entrance to the cemetery. About a year and a half ago, Oakwood Cemetery attempted to renovate the existing residence to meet their current needs as administration and space for growth. And that became economically infeasible. Estimates were close to $750,000 to do the work that they needed to do. So we went back to the drawing board and came up with this proposal, which is to demolish the existing house, create a new 3,000 square foot, single story, ranch style residential structure to the south of that existing residence. Essentially the same size as far as footprint. The original house kind of fit size-wise, footprint-wise with what they do, but it just functionally, there's a garage that's at a lower level. It's a very cut-up floor plan. They didn't use the second floor. The second floor was bedrooms and bathrooms. So those, they're non-functional space that they don't need to carry through. As you can see to the left of that, which is to the south, that's the proposed location. The surrounding existing, what's being removed, and essentially the footprint of where the existing building is would become the new parking for that new office. And the new building would meet the setbacks. Really, on this property, the only setback to be concerned with is the front yard. Such a large parcel, the side and rear yards don't matter. Coverage-wise, too, it's not exceeding anything. The interior floor plan. Essentially, they have two functions. They have, as a board, they need a space for meetings. They also need some other larger meeting space, which the original house did not provide. They also have needs for when clients come in, for a place for them to quietly and privately meet. Most of their all the burial plots and everything else that they have on property. And they have the support staff behind that. Here's the Comstock Ave elevation. This is the front. Said before, it's just a single story, steep slope pitch roof, asphalt shingles, got clapboard siding, some stone veneer. Trying to play off a little bit of the stone that's on site. There's some of the entry columns to the driveways has some of that similar stone material.
Maybe as small as it gets.
That's fine. I think it.
They have it in their packet too.
Again, that's just examples of the materials and the window design. And showing new landscaping, new sidewalks, and creating this as in a fully accessible building. That was one of the challenges with the house that was there, was adapting that to be an accessible facility. They had made some kind of temporary improvements to that house that technically weren't in compliance with ADA standards. And that proposed renovation of that house was attempting to do that, but it became a challenge just based on the construction of how that building was built. So I'll leave it there if there's any questions, comments.
First, I'd like, there's no one here to speak against the project, so I'm not
If
gonna
there's no one here to speak for or against, you can
We can-
close the public hearing
I
portion.
can close the
Yeah.
public hearing, and then anyone on the board can make comment. Does someone want to start?
Have you closed the public hearing?
I'm
Yes,
closing,
yeah.
yes. I'm
Okay,
closing the
very
public
good.
hearing. We'll get in sync.
Yes, yeah.
Jeff, you want to start?
I was just going to ask, to renovate the existing building, you said it was projected at three quarters of a million
Close to just
dollars.
under $1 million.
Yeah, and would that have included like ADA access to the second floor?
No,
No, that was just
no,
all
it would have just been the primary entrance, the
primary.
file transaction office, and then a small office on the first floor.
And then can you describe the material choices? I see we have fiberglass double hung windows.
Yes.
Can you just describe the materials that are proposed here?
So they're fiberglass double-hung windows with a simple 2/2 mutton pattern. Proposing black for the color, kind of complement and contrast the gray tones of the stone. We have clapboard siding, which is a smart side. You know, it's a wood-based product. It's not natural wood, but and then
Like a wood fiber
Yes.
cementitious mix?
no, it's not cementitious. It's wood fiber.
Wood fiber?
Yep. And then you'll see the trim columns. Those are all a PVC-based material.
I have some comments that
I'm just trying to form.
Oh,
the-
okay.
Go ahead. No, you can go.
Um,
Or anybody else?
You stated that you're taking the stance, to design it in a residential light because you're across the street from, which is basically the Berkeley district. The cemetery is also a historic district, and I
Historic
guess
landscape.
there is an opportunity here to approach this as a civic building. History of cemeteries, and I don't want to lecture here, but the history of cemeteries was the first parks in America. That during the Industrial Revolution, people found that the cemeteries were their only parks. And understandably, we've moved over time, this gateway building moved from, because of the construction of 81 to Comstock Ave. There's an opportunity here to create a gateway building and not a residential building. And what I'm seeing is a residential building, and I'd like to see more of a civic building, giving precedent to the cemetery.
Sure.
And I'm not saying it needs to be a two-story building, but I look to precedent in the cemetery in terms of the various stone mausoleums that are throughout the cemetery, which are quite beautiful. And I would like to see that happen here. I'm not saying that it needs to copy the old, but if you look at the old, I mean, that gives it a presence of civic, and I don't think that we need to take our cues from a residential neighborhood across the street. The residential neighborhood stands in its own as, the Berkeley district, and here's an opportunity with, the gateway to this wonderful cemetery, that we could create something that has more presence.
I would agree. I'm trying to work through the design and scale of the house, and I'm trying to understand it, but I think your comment's spot on that we don't need to go residential here. This should be more of a civic structure that embodies Oakwood and represents Oakwood to the community, rather than kind of like a suburban, low-slung ranch craftsman hybrid. But I don't, like,
I mean, if we look at the original administration building, it's not a two-story building, but it has a sense
Yeah,
of.
it has the volume and scale of
yeah,
that.
it has the
Exactly,
scale.
and I guess that's what I would like to see, based on, the scale. I have no issue in terms of moving the site, because the site is quite large and you need parking. I understand that. The relationship, though, for this house building, you're not changing the curb cut, and the actual gateway, actual entrance to the cemetery is a bit north.
Yes.
Was there any consideration to actually put this near the actual entrance?
It wasn't considered because of the way
No,
the
but
the
there's-
grade is on that site. They really,
Back to the first aerial.
Right.
west side.
Oh, so you'll have a lower level,
Yeah, so
Right,
it'll be a
right,
full,
right.
there'll be a full
a
basement.
full basement?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, they have record retention requirements through New York State that, I mean, they have, I think, 15 years and it has to be paper, they can't digitize their files.
Julie, I was also going to say, the further north you go, you're actually, the space becomes quite narrow
Okay.
with existing
Yeah,
plots.
I
and
mean,
so
I was
forth.
just
Yeah.
wanting to know the questions
Yep.
regarding it, not saying that one needed to move that. How many parking spaces will this new layout provide? Because I'm assuming the curb cut stays,
Yes, it'll be 8 spaces.
and it's just new asphalt paving. Any consideration to permeable paving? I don't know if that's a consideration. It requires maintenance, but given the setting, it might be something for consideration. Kyle, you have any comments?
I guess I would just say I'm on the Historic Oakwood Cemetery Preservation Association Board, and we would probably like to see something that fits more in the historic context of the cemetery.
Okay.
Appropriate to say.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the approach of making it more, you know, some of this is client-driven and budget-driven to try to construct this. 'Cause the intermediate proposal to this was to demolish that existing house to the point where you can leave the first floor and kind of the outside walls, get rid of the second floor, and try to, you know, renovate to that point. But that didn't prove economically, because they don't have a place that they can go during construction. And that, this
Right.
kind of lens, you know, they're gonna keep in operation, they're gonna they would build a new facility, and then once that's up and ready, they can go through with the demolition of the existing.
I have one question. With the construction of 81, does it open back up that gateway? Any particular areas?
I raised that question, but I don't know that it does, unfortunately. I mean, that'd be a beautiful building
That
to,
would be,
Much of it.
no, well, that would be
That's-
fantastic.
yeah.
To
That's
know
why I
that
asked the
from
question.
a-
That section of 81
Yeah.
will still be
It would
up
still
on
be
the
up on the
embankment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
From, you know, a city fabric, that would be a fantastic thing to happen, but unfortunately. We're all living the trials and tribulations of 81. Yeah. Any other
I
comments?
just say, your comment was good on location of the structure, if you're trying to get it closer to the primary entrance. So would this curb cut become kind of the primary entrance into this space? Or
it is the primary entrance just for this
just
administration
for the
building.
Right.
administration?
Because
Not
the
for the
primary
cemetery.
entrance for the cemetery, for
Remains
those
the
not
same.
needing administrative services, simply go in the
Remains the
the
existing?
main driveway, yep, which connects
Right.
Any other comments? I guess I would like to suggest, go ahead.
I think we should hold this open. I don't think we should vote on this today. I think
Which is what I was going to ask the board, if we would like to hold
Oh,
it, and if you would agree
Sorry
to
cut you
keep,
off.
no, that's fine. I wanted someone else to say it as opposed to me.
Yeah, I just don't feel that this is representative enough of this historic landscape and the character of a residential structure within the space. I feel should be removed in something of more along the lines of a civic structure that shares or embodies Oakwood into the community, projects it into the community rather than kind of a sleepy, low-slung ranch.
You can say whatever you want. Would the, I guess I,
I
rest of
just
the
have
board.
one other comment. So, given that this house must have been approved at this point in 1965,
It
or
would
whenever
not
it was
have-
constructed?
It wasn't designated at that
It
point.
wasn't
so
designated
no,
at the time.
No.
And if it was built in the cemetery, correct me if I'm wrong, if it was designated, that probably would not have been approved. I could probably, yes?
If I can just add a little context to that. So when we tried to renovate that existing building, we had to go through use variance, and we did actually get the approval for that, and we were to the point where actually we were ready to pull the permit. So we had zoning, and I believe we were replacing windows, so we had done a C of A for windows, and that had been, the
Right,
work had
because
been.
it's an existing
Yeah,
building.
because it's an existing,
Right.
building.
I also would say that the original, the building was constructed for the superintendent and his family at the time, who lived on site. And at this point, there's no on-site resident of the,
Right.
of the cemetery, or the superintendent no longer lives on site. So the direction the cemetery is moving is to an office or administration building, removing that residential component.
Which supports, not the argument, but the comment that there's an opportunity to make this much more civic-minded, directed design. If that is okay with you in terms of leaving it open, so we will not close it and not vote on it, and welcome you to come back with a different design.
And if you'd like to have, come back with some ideas to, we can have some some
work
discussions or work session.
Yeah, that'd be great to get
discuss,
feedback.
yeah, to sort of bat some ideas, or your ideas around, and see what may be more appropriate.
Okay. I just would add, so if I didn't agree to that, that would mean, would that
We would take a vote.
take vote?
And-
Okay, that's,
And it would be either to approve,
Yeah.
approve with conditions, or deny.
okay.
So this is a way to allow additional information and conversation.
Yeah, I just
to take
wanted to make
place
sure I
before-
wasn't,
Yep.
understood that. Thinking of a client who's been trying to do this project for about 2 years now, so they're getting a little anxious with.
All right. I think
So,
that's it.
Yeah, so our
for-
next meeting will be on the 25th of January, so we'll,
Aim for
I'll get
that.
in touch with you prior to that, and we'll keep working on it then.
Okay, great,
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Since we have no old business, no new business, we have a discussion regarding the Gillette House. Do you have to hit that little guy down below to do that? The one on the right. Oh, no, I guess one finger does it. What's that? No.
So I did want to bring the board up to speed with what has happened with the Gillette House, which is at 515 West Onondaga Street. The Gillette House is listed on the National Register. It is not a local protected site. Nonetheless, we are, the city took action in late December to seal up the rear of the property. And this, I just have some sort of some before pictures to be able to show you the condition of the property. You can see right into the back of the building. Back wall. Yeah. Yeah. So it was entirely open to the weather as well as people, seeking shelter.
Hey, do you remember when they first came to the board, when they bought that house?
The owners, it was, I want to say it was pre-COVID. So 29, I would say it was 2019.
19.
I want to say it was in 20, maybe a couple years ago now that there was a site visit that we took to go in.
But the back wall wasn't
So-
looking like that in 2019.
The back wall, it was already partially collapsed.
Yeah, that's-
It's been in this, in a state of disrepair, shall we say, for quite some time. And in fact, what the city found when it went to go and do this work, and they hired a contractor to come and do this, was that mostly it was not demolition, but actually clearance of the rubble. And so what they did is that they did some very minimal shoring, and they have sealed it up so that people can't get in. Obviously, this is a Band-Aid, and has bought the house a little bit of time, as I was talking to Brian Eisenberg from Codes, our demolition expert. And he said that, well, basically now the water at least is running down this way and not into the foundation of the property. To my knowledge, there's been no further discussion with the owners since the city took action. Of course, that was just before the holidays. Now with those holidays behind us, I'm hoping that I will be, I hope to work with neighborhood and business development as well as the code division to re-engage with the owners and see if we can't get this project moving forward. They do have extensive rehab plans for the property, but the city took action because it felt, for public safety reasons, it was necessary to do this. And as I say, I think that it has at least given a few more months of longevity to the to the house. That's all I have on.
Thank you. If that's it, may I have a motion to adjourn? From someone?
Unless there are any other
So
comments or anything? Okay.
Unless there are comments regarding that. Second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
No
objection?
no objections to adjourning. Thank you very much, and welcome to the new folks. It gets interesting.
Today's pretty light.
Okay, all right.
Today's pretty light.
So actually,
We are being recorded, and because it is on,
We're live on YouTube.
we're live.
Oh, okay.
Started with that.
We just have
We're
to
live on
be
YouTube channel.
cognizant of that. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
hopefully everyone can